Thank you all for coming to the fourth installment of our Sync Up Music Conference presented by the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation in conjunction with many different partners, including the state of Louisiana, the Louisiana Department of Economic Development and Culture, Recreation, and Tourism, the Louisiana Division of the Arts, and Loyola University, and many other sponsors who have helped make this possible. How many of you all were here yesterday or at one of the sessions last week? All right, mostly new faces, great. For those of you who don't know, the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation is the nonprofit organization that owns Jazz Fest, presented by Shell, and uses the proceeds from that incredible event for year-round community development activities in the areas of education, cultural programming, and economic development. And this project is part of our economic development mission, and the goal is very simply to try to do more to link the artists, the musicians of Louisiana, most of whom are independent, with professional music buyers. That would be buyers from festivals overseas or in other parts of the country who are looking for talent for their events, or increasingly the film and television market. And as you know, we have this booming film production industry, and we want to make sure that those films that are actually shooting here and are getting tax credits for those productions are using our music, because not only is our music terrific and could meet their needs, but they also get additional money back, so it makes a lot more sense. So today's session is on the international festival market, and we're really lucky to have with us a number of folks who are going to share a lot of information. We have Peter Tladi from the Joy of Jazz Festival in Johannesburg, South Africa. Welcome. Cynthia Simien, who I'm sure most of you know, is an artist manager and manages Terrence Simien, who is an international touring artist and now a Grammy winner. Welcome, Cynthia. Edgard Radesca from the Bourbon Street Music Club in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and now also the Bourbon Street Music Festival, which is a great event that's now in its 6th year, I believe?
Yes, the 6th.
Rick Mitchell from the Houston International Festival in Houston, which is a great event as well. It's a world music festival in Houston, Texas, that just wrapped a couple of weeks ago, right?
1 week ago.
1 week ago, so thank you for being here. And Peter Dammann from the Waterfront Blues Festival in Portland, Oregon. Welcome, Peter. And sitting in for Patrick Cutter is Justine Lubet from the Nancy Jazz Pulsations Festival in Nancy, France. I'd like to just ask each of you, if I could, one of our main purposes here is to figure out how artists from Louisiana can access the wider market of music festivals around the world. Cynthia, maybe it would be good to start with you, since you speak from the artist and artist representation perspective. How do you view the festival market around the world in terms of its accessibility and its openness to Louisiana artists?
That's a very big question.
That's all right, we've got all day.
And I represent a well-established artist who's been touring and recording internationally for 26 years. As a 20-some-year-old, he was on stage with Sarah Vaughan and Fats Domino at the Bern Jazz Festival. And, there is no real stock formula. Some of the international festivals and promoters are more accessible than others, like just in general, as a rule of business. We do not have a European agent, so I think we're at maybe even more of a disadvantage. However, we connected with these guys pretty easily, because I think they sought us out, and those festivals that want your artists, they will find you, as any promoter would, whether it's a national festival or an international festival. But for some reason we're touring more internationally. There's, it's sometimes feast or famine. We'll go years and not do many international festivals. And then all of a sudden, there's renewed interest. And so it does take a for us, a lot more work to connect and cultivate international festival opportunities. The New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation actually is very mindful of this challenge for Louisiana artists, and they assisted us several years ago in some travel funds for a festival we were doing in Germany. So our state it was a small grant, an easy grant application, and it was a generous amount, but in the big pictures of grants, it was really helped us out a great deal. Mid-Atlantic Arts out of the Baltimore area also offers an international touring grant. We belong to the Association of Presenting Arts Presenters in New York, and they've recently also added like a $2,000 international travel grant. So it does help, because oftentimes as a new artist or an emerging artist, one does have to make some financial concessions to tour internationally. I mean, we work with a variety of U.S. booking agencies, International Music Network out of the Boston area, and they represent people like Bela Fleck, and Bela Fleck, often finds it frustrating that he can make 3 times the amount in artist fee at a U.S. festival than he can in Europe. So, but we do want to thank again the foundation for helping us, fund our travel and for being mindful of the challenges.
Peter Tladi, I think some folks here may not be completely familiar with your event. Can you tell us a little bit about it and the history of it?
Good morning. My festival is based in Johannesburg, South Africa, which is the economic hub of the country. And it's always at the end of August. This year it will be on the 28th, 29th, and 30th of August. We have been going on for the past 15 years.
15 years, wow, that's great.
15 years. And we have, to this point, employed over 1,000 American artists.
Really?
Including artists from Louisiana, quite a lot of them. Thanks to the two past chairmen of the board. We invite artists from around the world, from Japan, from the Middle East, Europe, America. We haven't had much success with the Caribbean artists. We have had about 3 Cuban acts in the past, and this year we adding another stage, which is called the African Renaissance. As you know, that in Africa we have a lot of we are not together, I must say. So this stage hopes to bring together African artists from across Africa. Every year we will feature about six, until we've covered the whole of 50 states of Africa. And it's a very interesting stage. We have 9 stages, and one of the stages is called Mbira stage. In Mbira stage, that's where artists from world music perform. I mean, for instance, this year we will have an artist called Yolanda Duke and the Tito Point Orchestra. We have booked them to come and play. The other stages, we have a straight jazz stage called Baseline, where we play mainstream jazz. That's the only way I can. That's where Branford Marsalis played as well, I told you. Branford Marsalis played there as well. And we have a huge tent, which we call the jazz tent. That's where we mixed a little bit of R&B and smooth jazz, because that's a 4,000 seater, so that's always packed. And Bira stage is about 2,000 seater, it's always packed as well.
How many people total, more or less?
Our attendance annually is about 20,000 in 2 days.
In 2 days?
Mm-hmm.
2 days.
I mean, in 3 days.
3 days.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
And our workshopping, maybe he'll show some of this. Our workshopping program is very extensive, but not as extensive as I know the Jazz Fest has. When the artists come from outside the country, we engage them to go meet artists from around the province. You call it states, we call ourselves the provinces. And our province has got 6 districts, and all those districts become involved in workshops where different artists go to different districts. Besides that, we have, on an annual basis, workshop for journalists who write for jazz. We get a lot of young people, and the universities are now beginning to wake up to say, hey, we need specialists in this area, and because there are no specialists. So we have a workshop that last year it was only for women, this year it will be for men, and like that. And otherwise, we go around the schools that have got music classes. We take 2 students from each school. We normally have close to 40 students. We take them, we accommodate them. They attend classes by different teachers, music, and for a whole week up to the last day of the festival. And they perform at the end of the festival. So that's what I can say about 12 Jazz. And our prices to come in are a bit cheaper than Jazz Fest. Considering the dollar is a bit mightier than the rent.
You just have to get there.
Yeah, you just have to get there.
Edgard, why don't you tell us a little bit about the club in São Paulo and also about the festival and how that emerged?
Yes.
It's called Bourbon Street, after all.
Yes, it's called Bourbon Street after the old Bourbon Street. Well, my former partner passed away some years ago. Luis Fernando, he came to the city, fell in love, and then he wanted to do something, a club that will bring this music and this atmosphere of New Orleans to São Paulo. We start the club, we build up the club along 4 long years. We have other activities and we have no money to make it happen in 1 year. So we built it in 4 years. The club opened in 1993 and this year is going to accomplish 15 years. Well, when we brought many acts. The club has been opened by B.B. King. We have the honor of having Ray Charles, Nina Simone, and many other very famous artists. But the club has been built after New Orleans, and we brought many New Orleans artists, because all the architecture of the club is New Orleans style. You have balconies going inside. The mezzanines are like balconies. We have the stage, and the club has been built. There was nothing. We just have the land, and that was the whole idea, to bring all the atmosphere of New Orleans. So we have New Orleans music, New Orleans food. We have Cajun food. We have jambalaya in São Paulo at our club. We have drinks, the scholar drinks. We even smuggled some hurricane mixes to make it happen the authentic way. Whenever we come here, we bring this strange powder in our luggage. Sometimes
it usually goes the other way, doesn't it?
So we do everything to have all the feeling of New Orleans in our club, besides the actor, of course, the musicians. And in 2003, to accomplish our 10th anniversary, we decided to honor our roots and to celebrate with a festival. So we put together a festival that was going to happen just once. And this was in 2003 and was a great success. We got two open air. It's different, the shape. We have one stage at the park, opening the festival, then along the week inside the club, and then we finish in front of the club. We thought this would be a good idea in order to promote the club. So we closed the street, where, of course, city helps us in this. And the very end, the grand finale, is at the street. And it was so good that people wrote to us asking to make it happen again. It was supposed to be just once. And this was November. I was telling that we close to our anniversary, our true anniversary. But what happened is that the very last day it rained. Rain. I'm talking about rain here. So authentic New Orleans. So and the street was packed. And oh my dear,
Want me to take a message?
No. I put it off. I don't know what happened. Sorry about that. And what happened was the street was packed and rained, and everybody went. It was the grand finale, but it was a summer rain. And after 40 minutes, what we found is that nothing had happened to the stage. And we went there. We saw people coming, running to once again to get their place. Well, after this, we moved our festival to a drier month. Everybody came. It was a success, and then we moved it to August because it's a dry season there. And after this, we did our festival. It will be the 6th edition of our festival. This was last year's lineup, and if you have the opportunity to go into it, if you put on palcos, please, yes, means stage. You'll have an idea. This is the club on the corner, and
Cool website.
yeah, there is music also, but we are not. Can you put in the very beginning?
Sure.
It's amazing.
We have nothing but time, Edgard.
Okay, so forget it. No. The home back.
Oh, I see.
When you started, because it's amazing. Yes, this.
Nice.
This means a week of party.
Now we know why you called the club Bourbon Street.
Well, this was after White Magnolia last year. Every year we put something. It's like this. Okay. So that's what it's all about. We are in our 6th edition this year. That's it.
Thank you. Well, keeping on with our international focus for the moment, Justine, could you just tell us a little bit about the history of Nancy Jazz Pulsations? And it's 35 years old this year, is that correct?
Yeah, this year, it's 35th birthday of the festival. And so the festival takes place on October. It's a 15 days festival. So we have a lot of stages, and the main place, it's on a park in the cities of Nancy, and we used to have, like, if you go in, it's concert, descente, action artistique.
pictures
But
aren't
we have some
coming up.
problem with our webmaster, and we'll hope to have a new website this year.
Sorry, the pictures aren't
And you
working
have
for some
concert
reason.
de
Oh, there we go. Oh, is that-
Quartier Musique, no, and you have before concert décentralisé. So it's some tour we used to
oh, there we go.
to organize, and it's where we invite a lot of New Orleans artists, as Little Freddie King, the Dirty Dozen Brass Band, or some bands like that. And so we used to invite them, and they make like a tour of the region. So we pay for all the travels and fees, and they have like 5 or 7 concert gigs during the festival.
So a band will come over and play 5 or 6 or 7 times.
Yeah. It's why we used to. Patrick Cada came for the first time in '82 here, and it's why
Patrick,
I think.
wave your hand. This is the director of the festival.
This is the director.
He doesn't like to speak in public, though.
And so he used to, since this time, invite a lot of artists, and to have the cost lower, I think we organize this tour to be easier for us to have an artist not for one day on the big stage, but always on all the region. And so, as Little Freddie King came for the first time in 1997, and so he will come again this year and to have a tour. And we try to connect with other festivals in France. It's when Little Freddie King plays in Paris, in the Jazz Festival in Paris. And this year we will invite the Hot 8 Brass Band too. And so with another festival in Besançon, so it's near Nancy, and we'll make the tour in France connected with the festival and consult. So
That's great. That's exactly what artists from here are looking for, is not only to get that one gig, but then to be able to extend it and be able to have a little tour of the region. That's great. Thank you so much. Rick, your festival is in the United States, but it's an international music festival. Can you tell us, for folks who may not be familiar with it, can you just give us a little bit of the background and the history?
The Houston International Festival has been going, I think, for 36 or 37 years. It's the official civic celebration of the arts in Houston. It's not city-owned or run, however. It's a private, nonprofit educational foundation. For the first 15 years, it was more visual arts-oriented. It shifted over more toward performing arts in 1986. By the time I arrived in Houston to become the music critic at the Houston Chronicle in 1989, it was pretty much I considered it the hippest annual event in town to cover from a musical point of view. Every year there is an honored nation or region or theme, and this year it was out of Africa, basically from Africa to America and back again, the African-American diaspora. We publish a curriculum guide that's distributed free to public schools, like 12,000 of these go out. We're more than a music festival, really. It's an educational and cultural festival, and then the World Music Festival and the Regional Music Festival are sort of inside that bigger circle. I don't think a pure music festival like an Austin City Limits or a Jazz Fest would really work in Houston, because we're not a tourist town. Jazz Fest gets rained out, everybody goes, okay, well, not rained out, but gets rained on. Everybody goes, it's okay, we'll go tomorrow, we're in New Orleans. Our festival is embraced by the local population. Probably 20% of our attendance is from outside the 4-county Houston area, but you see a lot more locals. And Houston is a very diverse international population. So in addition to, I think, educating Houstonians about a certain nation or region of the world, we also show Houston to itself. This is who we are. It's the time when everybody comes out, white, black, Hispanic, Asian, rich and poor, and rubs shoulders together. We have 10 stages. The largest stage, the World Music Stage, is in a bowl. The festival takes place in downtown Houston. This is a map of Scott, I don't know if there's a map on there or not. Don't worry about it. I've got it right here. This is downtown Houston. This is Houston City Hall right here. So we fence off downtown. This is Sam Houston Park, the original settlement along Buffalo Bayou in Houston. So we're right in the heart of Houston. And it's modeled to a certain extent off a European festival, the way that we use the streets and the park spaces to maximum advantage. It's not a big open football stadium or soccer field type festival. We don't have a racetrack with big space. So our headliners are one step down from what you would, there's no Billy Joel or Stevie Wonder. Our headliners this year were the Neville Brothers, Buddy Guy. We had UMass Akela, but he canceled for health reasons. So we were able to get Taj Mahal to replace him. And we also do world music every year, whatever the theme is. We do African music and reggae. Pretty much every major African artist has played. This year, some of our international artists, we had, the Garifuna Collective, Habib Koit, Menoir, with help from the French Bureau of Export, all the way from Mauritius, Emmeline Michel from Haiti, and we had the North American debut of the National Dance Theater of Ethiopia. Because of the Lucy exhibit, the 3-million-year-old fossil that's at the Museum of Natural Science in Houston, we were able to work a very close relationship with the Ethiopian government. We also do regional and local music. There's a Louisiana stage every year. It used to be the American stage, but with all the New Orleans people living in Houston now, we renamed it the Louisiana stage. Terrence was there this year, as a matter of fact, although not playing on the Louisiana stage. He played on the world stage, and he has a show called Creole for Kids that we have a whole zone for children. The New Orleans stage the Louisiana stage, the New Orleans music is very, very well received. And just so you know, there's more Zydeco in Houston than there is in New Orleans. We get the best, and a lot of people that came up in Houston are now moving to Louisiana instead of the other way around. People like Corey Ledette and Cedric Watson grew up around Houston. We also have a Houston stage, top independent, indie rock bands and alt country. We have a Latin zone. Houston's demographic is 35 to 40% Hispanic. So, of course, we have a Latin zone. This year we focused on Latin rock and salsa with some more traditional music. We had a Cotton Club stage, which was for more traditional jazz. There's so much going on that it's really hard for me to keep it all straight. Like I said, though, it's more than a music festival. We also have a living museum with educational and cultural exhibits, and this year it focused on the legacy of segregation and the history, really, of African Americans in the Americas, or of Africans in the Americas. We designed an Ethiopian church. There's a very famous church at Lalibela that's built into the side of a mountain, and we designed that on site. So it's more than a music festival. It's a cultural festival of which music is a big part. And I think in a lot of ways, certainly the agents and the musicians are aware of us, but it's not really covered nationally as an event like Jazz Fest is, which is okay. We'd obviously like to get more tourists, but I like the fact that the locals support us. And
what's the attendance on a given day?
On a given day, the attendance is about 30 to 40,000 people. Kids 12 and under are free. We have a lot of volunteers. So when the weather cooperates, our total attendance is maybe 120 to 150,000, plus the other events that we do in the year-round education programs. We generally estimate our total attendance at about 200,000. And it's $8 in advance, $15 at the gate. Kids 12 and under are free. Well, personally, I wouldn't mind if it cost more, but part of that is because we get the cooperation from the city, and we are fencing off downtown, and so in a way that the ticket price is held to a certain extent artificially low, but that's a good thing. We get a lot of corporate sponsorship. Houston is sometimes characterized as a conservative city. It's not really conservative so much as it is capitalistic. If they can figure out a way to make a profit, then you get your turn at bat. And so we get a lot of support from the corporate community in Houston. I think that Covers a lot.
Yeah, it certainly does. Peter, do you want to walk us through Waterfront?
The Waterfront Blues Festival is in Portland, Oregon. We are in our 21st year. It is the largest blues festival on the West Coast and the second largest music event in the Pacific Northwest. Let's see, we have 4 stages, a boat that has 3 stages on it that goes out twice a day. I book about 100 to 125 acts every year. We get about 25 to 35,000 people a day at our festival. The Waterfront Blues Festival is kind of an anomaly in the event business. It is owned and operated and produced by a social service agency, the Oregon Food Bank. And really the mission of the festival is to raise a bunch of money for hunger relief in the Northwest. The way we do that is we underwrite all of the talent and production costs by corporate sponsorship, and the Oregon Food Bank actually owns all the beer sales. So all the merch and a lot of the vendor fees go to underwrite the production costs. So when you come to the Waterfront Blues Festival, we ask for a $10 donation and a couple cans of food, and if you can afford it, we ask you for a little more, and if you can't, we just let you in. And at the end of the day, we raise about $500,000 and about 150,000 pounds of food every year for the food bank. Yeah. Because of this alliance with the food bank, the festival has always enjoyed, it's always had sort of a populist vibe to it, has a lot of support in the community. Everybody comes to it, whether it's the CEO of the bank or the guy living under the bridge. Everybody comes. It's a fun. Portland is not a terribly diverse community, but to the extent that it's diverse, our crowd is diverse.
Now, it's called the Blues Festival, but it's not
It is called a blues festival, but it's 4 days long. It's got 4 stages, and I figure if I've got to be down there for 4 days, it's got to keep my interest for 4 days. So it's not all shuffles and slow blues and G from the 5. Now, we've used a lot of New Orleans acts, a lot of Gulf Coast acts, really since the beginning, but over the last 3 or 4 years, we've used a lot of them. Probably over the last 3 years, I probably booked about 60 Louisiana acts, ranging from Zydeco guys like Chris Edgard and Rosie Ledette to Neville Brothers and Irma Thomas and Marva Wright and Hot Eight Brass Band.
And after Katrina and Rita, Portland had a very extensive
Yeah,
outreach.
after Katrina, well, because this is run by the food bank, 3 weeks after Katrina, the food bank said, well, we need to do something for the food banks in the Gulf, so let's put on an event. So in basically a week, we threw together this event that raised about $150,000 for Gulf Coast food banks. Charmaine Neville was, I think, in D.C. at that point. She flew out to be one of our acts, and Irma was supposed to fly in, but got stuck in the Baton Rouge airport by Hurricane Rita. But the event went on, and we raised a lot of money. It was a great thing. The other thing that Portland did right after the hurricane, the Portland Jazz Society actually underwrote travel expenses for about a dozen, or maybe even 2 dozen New Orleans musicians to relocate to Portland, and they put them up for a month and to, sort of help them get reorganized. And some of them are still there. Devin Phillips, the saxophonist, is still there and very much happening on our local scene. It's really cool to have somebody like that in our midst. What else can I tell you about my event? You can ask me questions afterwards, I guess. Anyway.
Tell me again what time of year it is.
Oh, it's over the 4th of July weekend. I guess I could say something about how I select acts. Obviously, we're looking for acts that will help draw the crowd down to the park so we can raise money for the food bank. But I'm also looking for new and exciting, interesting acts that aren't going to cost too much. So I guess the challenge for somebody trying to get to Portland from here is to either create such a buzz down here that I hear about it and have to have you on the lineup, or you call me and say, I have a really cool act, and I just happen to be passing through the Northwest on the 4th of July weekend, and we will basically play for, a glorified local rate, which is, it varies. Oh, it's about twice what Union Scale would be, a couple $100 a guy, and rooms if you're from out of town, and hospitality and all that kind of stuff. And we will treat you really well. I mean, everybody who plays this festival, I was talking to Wolfman Washington's bass player the other day, and he said, that is the coolest event we've ever played. So that means a lot to me, because I'm also a musician, so I appreciate that kind of perspective.
I just wanted to add, when you mentioned Devin Phillips, I'm doing a radio documentary on people who have relocated and who are happy where they are, and people who have relocated and who want to come back and can't. And I interviewed Devin Phillips, and he told me that your city welcomes him with open arms, and it's so beautiful. And he almost cried on the phone, and he said how wonderful that city is and how much it's done for his career, and he's so happy. So I just wanted to share that.
That's great, thanks.
Great. Well, thank you all. Peter, you pretty much got to the heart of it. The issue for so many artists, not just in Louisiana, but everywhere, and when it comes to festival promoters and touring artists, it's all about economics. And the issues are many. The cost, especially for international festivals, the cost of airfare, the cost of talent itself, and how to balance that with the attractiveness of an artist in terms of being able to fill seats versus somebody who may be more affordable but perhaps less well known, which leads to issues of educating the audience. So maybe to approach it in a broader way, could you all comment on, from your perspectives in your countries and in your cities, how do you perceive the market generally for music from Louisiana and from New Orleans? Is there a strong interest in Eastern France for New Orleans music, or in Southern Africa, or in Brazil, or Portland, or Houston? I mean, is this music that translates, and do you have to be the Neville Brothers to be able to get a gig there, or can you be, Glenn David Andrews, or somebody at that level? Who wants, Justine?
As far as it's not an open-air festival, it's like some theaters, the big stages. So the interest for jazz in France is less and less important, and so we have some economic trouble last year, and so it's why we used to do this tour, and because in some small cities, people go more and more in the concert, and we can have the Louisiana artist in our big stage. And as for the Hot 8 brass band this year, we think to mix on the stage with a trio with Marcus Miller, Stanley Clarke, and the third one I don't remember. I will. And so it's people need to have a big headliner to come at the concert. So we have they just need the headliner. So people really like music, but I think it's difficult for us to come just for the deco music or Cajun music. They need to have Zachary Richard or.
But you all have had artists from here who are not big, huge headliners. You have, on occasion, brought over bands that might be at a second or third level.
Sorry?
Little Freddie King.
Little Freddie King, yeah.
Yeah. And had him as 10 years ago. I mean, so
When
he was less well known than he
and so
is
people
now.
now I think used to know him and very well in the region. And
Peter, Tladi, how do you view the market in your region of the world for the type of music that comes from here?
Yeah, because I have had a couple of musicians from here, and they were accepted very highly. But like you said, live music is under attack, I think, from across the world. We are under attack from sponsors, from governments, from the audience themselves, who feel that creativity has died. And that's why you see the old-timers all coming back on stage. I mean, you've seen what's happening, We even have ZZ, what is ZZ? The old beard guy.
ZZ Top.
ZZ ZZ guys coming back. I mean, everybody's coming back because creativity died in the 80s. Now, I had the opportunity of discussing with a couple of my colleagues who runs festivals and the agents, and especially the agent. It was quite surprising that almost all the festivals lost their flight sponsorships. All air carriers just pulled out of festival. Why? All of a sudden, and people come less and less at shows because they will tell you, what am I going to see? So under such, conditions, and the world's economic situation is not encouraging it, a person will go and buy bread, then go to a show. They will go and fill up their petrol, then go and then go to a show. That's a true fact. So that affects the programming as well with us. But we need to, come together to actually fight that situation, because it is happening, whether we like it or not. I know if you've been reading about the slump in the sale of CDs worldwide, you'll realize what I'm saying. In South Africa alone, the past 2 months, the industry went down by about 24%. And the young music market is not even attracting audiences. There are no more shows. I was in New York last week with my 14-year-old son. We stayed for that whole week. He was trying to see a hip-hop show. He's a hip-hop fan. There was no show. And the agent said, there are no shows. We have to do shows outside New York. I said, that's quite funny. And there were quite a number of jazz shows. Because why? Because we don't charge. The jazz musicians don't charge the amount of money that maybe hip-hop, or people are losing interest in that. I'm not sure. But I stayed for a week in New York. I couldn't get a show for this guy to go and see. So that situation hits us as well. We don't have an airline partner like we used to have before.
Well, the airline industry is facing tremendous difficulties. There's consolidation between all the carriers. The price of fuel is skyrocketing. So it's no surprise that would be one of the first to go.
So in that case, my festival would like to have as many of Louisiana musicians as possible. I've had as many. But there is so much talent here that needs to be brought over to South Africa. The South African people like it. But the economic situation prevents it. But the economic situation can be helped by governments. I'll give you an example. We brought a young gospel artist here. It was some time ago. I'm sure Madam Miss Rose there will tell us. I took artists from here. We were starting an exchange type, cultural exchange program. I took some artists, Donald Harrison and a couple of musicians, to my festival. And we brought that the young gospel singer here. The situation was that our government actually helped pay fares for that artist. But on the other side, we had to pay for Donald Harrison, but he had, the thing is, we had to pay for his fares to come over, but then we had an airline sponsor at that time, so they didn't need to do anything. But now that doesn't happen. But if something like that can happen, where the city or the state can help a lot of these musicians, I'll create a stage for them in South Africa. That has been my intention all along.
So it becomes a matter of public sector underwriting.
Of public sector underwriting. And I can tell you, one guy who tried to do that for us was Brentford Marsalis. There is a fund here in the States, that's the only one I know, under the State Department called Festival Fund, where, I don't know, I'm sure I want somebody to teach me more about it, because if you got anything before. And they also helped us with the Count Basie Orchestra, which came last year. So if the state can come in, because the arts can never support themselves, I don't need to teach anybody. If the state or the city can help, that will happen. You know, if the Jazz and Heritage Foundation can create a stage for South Africa here, our government, our businesses there will help support those artists to come, but they will want you guys to do the same and do that. That would happen. That's just my other suggestion.
I'd like to comment on that as well. We've actually done a lot of tours with the U.S. State Department. In fact, if you Google, U.S. State Department, you'll find a variety of funding opportunities for international touring. We've let's see, this year, well, Terrence once did a USIA tour. The United States Information Agency used to, as a standard, tour American artists all over the world. We've been to, last summer we went to Seychelles, Mauritius, and Rodrigue with the U.S. Embassy, and I worked directly with a cultural affairs officer. Carnegie Hall with has a distance learning program called Global Encounters. They sent us to Mali, West Africa. So, and they have a direct partnership with the U.S. State Department. There's definitely more. I've seen in recent years more funding available through the U.S. State Department for international travel. Actually, we're going back to Paraguay this year with the U.S. Embassy over the 4th of July, and they brought the group to, first brought them to Havana, Cuba, and then this is our second trip to Paraguay. So there's definitely funding available through the U.S. State Department, and I see more and more programs.
There used to be a nonprofit in New York City called the Arts International Group that did exactly that. They would provide grant funds to American artists that had already gotten a gig at an event overseas. And so once the engagement was confirmed, you could apply for a grant to subsidize travel costs. But they went out of business. Edgard, I wanted to ask you, through the nightclub and also through the festival, you bring a lot of artists in from Louisiana. As long as we're talking about the economics of it, tell us how you manage to handle it with the airfares, which are quite expensive. Do you pay air travel for the artists?
Well, always money is a problem, of course, for everybody who runs a festival. We try to get help from sponsors everywhere. And we don't have an airline also, but we managed to have some discounts because we buy a package, so it's a package deal. And we put together all the money needed. It's always breaking even, thanks God, okay? And now we are going to our 6th edition. We hope that we go a little above this. As far as the government, I would like to say something. The embassies around the world. I used to say, I said to U.S. ambassador in Brazil and to the consulate in São Paulo, that they should put more money on music, because to offset what happened along all these years, at least, music is the best ambassador for U.S., okay? So they should have additional funds besides this that you have mentioned. And this goes from federal to state, but it's federal because it's State Department. So they should put more money in music. Everybody likes American music, and this helps the U.S. image abroad. Coming back to Louisiana, we have to move backwards, because Brazil and Louisiana have a cultural identity because Afro roots, immigration, and so on. So when this was Louis, my partner first, came here, he felt this, and it's a matter of feeling. And when we started doing Louisiana, New Orleans music there in Brazil, people like it, and because of this we are now open for 15 years. When we first brought Zydeco, for instance, that seems amazing, Brazilians love it because there are some rhythms that are alike, and you know, it's something that's moving. Brazil is a musical country. Many new rhythms come every day. The audience, and this is what's all about. We bring more known artists, like Terence was mentioning, Zydeco, Donald Harrison, many, Charmaine L. And we bring, last year we had Erica Falls. I don't know how many of you know Erica. She's fantastic. She used to be a back vocal of New Beginnings that you also don't know. It's a Double Crawford's back. And she was fantastic. So we range, answering your former question, from known artists to unknown artists. It is important to know, because the feeling is what matters. So how it the artist communicates with the audience. So that's what happens in Brazil about Louisiana and New Orleans music is that it matches. So I don't know where else, but I can say that probably in most parts of the world it will work. That's what I have to say about Louisiana. Yeah.
Rick?
What do you pay unknown artists?
Beg your pardon?
What do you pay unknown artists?
I paid
A cup of coffee and a Subway token.
I pay the right fare, you know. I pay what they request and what I can pay. This depends on the artist, of course. But most important is what they can deliver, okay, in terms of audience involvement. This is how we screen or how we get our artists.
I would like to respond to just a couple of the points that were made here before we take the questions. What this gentleman back here was talking about with the taking over the touring business, the Clear Channel Live Nation, I was just learned that Live Nation bought Bumbershoot in Seattle, which is one of the long-running cool world music festivals. If you trace that back, Clear Channel before that was SFX, and before SFX they were Pace Concerts. Pace Concerts was founded in Houston by a guy from New Orleans named Louis Messina, whose dad was a boxing promoter here. Now Louis has his own company that is in direct competition with Clear Channel in Houston. You know, basically, if they want a show coming through Houston, one of those two gets it. You know, they don't look at us as direct communication, though, because we're nonprofit. As far as the international touring, I would have liked another African headliner this year. We work closely with Festival International in Lafayette and with Jazz Fest on bringing these acts in, but they just weren't on the road as much this year. And I don't know if it's the price of the dollar versus the euro, if they were in Europe or just not touring. But we tried to get Salif Keita, we tried to get Femi Kuti or Sean Kuti. There's only a certain number of Afro-pop acts that really are worth it to us at the level that they want, and they just weren't on tour. And then, you know, we were able to get Umasekela, but then he had to cancel his whole tour. As far as public support goes, we get a grant from the City of Houston, the Cultural Arts Council, what's now the Houston Arts Alliance, from money from the hotel occupancy tax and the airport tax. We get a substantial grant from them, but it's still a very minuscule part of our overall budget. When I went to France a few years ago and went to this great music festival in Angoulême called Music Matisses, it's an African music festival, they were amazed at how small the level of public support we get from the arts is. And that may be even more true in Houston than in some cities, but in general, that's America. However, we've been able, like I said, to do well with corporate sponsors. This year, however, we had no airline sponsor other than Ethiopian National Airways, which helped us bring the National Dance Theater of Ethiopia to Washington, D.C., and then we flew them from D.C. to Houston. So that is hurting us. Back to your original question with New Orleans music, you know, like the Grateful Dead said, Houston, too close to New Orleans. So we benefit from this relationship. You know, we're able to get great Louisiana music at, I don't want to say local prices, but at regional prices. And, you know, people can drive over and drive back the same night if they want to. There are artists in New Orleans that I would like to do that I'm just not sure that they're well known enough to justify what they would, like Davell Crawford, John Boutte. You know, these guys are great. But I'm not sure how well known they are in Houston. On the other hand, because we have such a sizable New Orleans community, it's still estimated at maybe 80 to 100,000 people that used to live here that now live there. Soul Rebels, killed them. Trombone Shorty, killed them. And one thing that was so cool that about 20 people saw, I mentioned Memoir from Mauritius. We had an after party for our staff and volunteers. Lumar LeBlanc, who's the leader of Soul Rebels, still lives in Houston because he lost his house here. Most of the band is back here. We had a jam session with the New Orleans Hustlers Brass Band, which is Lumar's Houston band, at a party for our volunteers. Memoir came, and he wanted to jam, but he didn't have any instruments. And what we had was a bass drum, a trombone, and these two guys trading wordless vocalizations. Lumar moaning the blues, and in Mauritius, their vocal music is really as much Indian or Indonesian as it is African, this rhythmic vocal. It was the coolest thing. And, you know, that's what can happen, you know, when you bring the world together like this.
I think there's going to be a lot of questions. A topic that we didn't get to, and I just want to mention it, is issues of work permits, visas, taxes, all of the other types of issues that American artists traveling abroad, or foreign artists traveling in the United States, those are all complicating factors in addition to airlines, sponsorships, relative visibility or reputation of the artists. So just want to put that out there. Does anybody have any more questions? Yes.
I'm Kim Carson. I'm an artist. I've been booking myself, and my question is, what's the best way to get submissions to you? Some festivals don't really want to deal with independent artists. They want to go through an agency, a booking agency, and they'll do that first. Then the independents get, kind of get like, well, here's what's left over. Do you guys take submissions from independent artists? Do you go through agencies? And what's the best way to contact you? With electronic press kit, through email? Is that best?
There's the website there, and my email address can be found on that. I mean, most likely you wouldn't not be on one of our big music stages, but we have 10 total stages. So exactly.
Jazz Fest to go play for you, right?
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what we said.
Okay. Now, just to answer your question again from the African perspective, is that we are we prefer to deal with registered agents. not even managers, because because one of the things that our government in South Africa insists is to have an escrow account, because a couple of things happened before where people got paid and never did their job. And again, if I give you as a single artist, I'm not saying you, but others do, they have done it before, you give the deposit, the next thing they don't have money to get onto the onto the plane, they've used it all. So to cover yourself up is to use an agency that will make sure that the artist goes and they'll hold the money in an escrow.
So, like, excuse me one sec. So, like, with many business relationships, you often like to deal with people that you've got a previous relationship
Yes.
with that you know you're not going to get burned.
Yeah.
That's your point, Kim.
One of the festivals we played in France 2 years ago, they, kind of the contract, they purchased our airline tickets for us, and that was going toward our overall fee. So they purchased the tickets for us in our name. That way, we don't get the money if we don't fly and show up. Well, the airline's happy, I guess, but that was one way that it worked out.
But the tickets are something, but another thing is that we have to give you a deposit.
Well, this
Unless if you don't want the deposit, you come in, you get your money at the festival. So we can deal with it.
But it goes both ways, because if you're an artist and you don't get your deposit, you don't want to get on the plane.
No. Yeah, you see, that's another thing. Yeah.
Ed.
Edward Anderson, I'm a group called New Orleans, and I direct Institute of Jazz Culture at the University. I have a question regarding what I see is the perception when people come to Shop Town in New Orleans, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I'd like to get your feedback. It seems like they approach things from two standpoints. One is they're looking for either national level artists like the Terrence Blanchard, early maybe who may have representation that's really not New Orleans based, or they come here specifically for grassroots type New Orleans artists. But there's a whole other segment that I think doesn't always get addressed, and that's sort of like the modern jazz artists and others that may be from New Orleans but don't necessarily have the character sort of presentation. They're really serious, trying to be serious artists in a sense, versus the entertainment component. How do you guys address art and entertainment in your decision making?
Well, if I may answer your question, both you mentioned have been at my club, Terrence, Irving, and what we do in our festival, we try to have a sample of most of the rhythms. Is a showcase of New Orleans art, entertainment, and we, for instance, we had Donald Harrison playing modern jazz, and afterwards, as he can do, leading a second line Indian dressed, and most of the acts can do both. But there we try to do this, to have zydeco, jazz, gospel, funk, rhythm and blues, and so on. That's how we think about this. We think everything is art and entertainment, and it's all about New Orleans and Louisiana. That's my answer.
Every year there's a couple of acts that we do because I feel like we ought to do them, like Tenarowin from the Tuareg, the Sahara Blues. This year, like Emmeline Michel from Haiti. But generally, I'm going to make those kinds of calls more on world music than I am on jazz. It's an honest answer. Yeah.
It's always tricky, especially dealing with modern jazz. Yes.
My question is directed to Peter. You comment your concern about working with agencies to get artists for the festival.
Preferably.
Would you be willing to say which agencies you work with? That way it might facilitate artists who are interested in working with you to make this happen. What agencies do you work with?
The agency that my festival works with mostly, I do work with other agencies, William Morris, CAA and all those, but our agents who is the agent for the festival is Universal Attractions in New York. that's the agency that you can can get to, and they've got a direct line to us. But a lot of others just comes direct, like the artists that I brought from here. I brought them as artists. They came through because the foundation is here to protect my interest.
And, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Say, hey, I come to them and say, hey, I booked this agency, Mr. Williams. I booked this artist because I saw him at the festival. So,
Well, let's not forget that point.
yeah,
because
that
it's very
point,
important.
because I saw them, most of them I saw them here
Right.
at the Jazz Fest.
One of the reasons that we're doing events like this during this time frame is that international and national festival buyers come to New Orleans during Jazz Fest, and they go to Lafayette during the Festival International out there. And so even though we are a cultural event more than a business development event, we are an attraction. It's a terrific showcase opportunity, and I certainly, and I'm sure you all as well, can attest that artists who have an opportunity to perform and showcase, whether it's at the festival or in a club, there is a strong possibility that there may be a buyer from a festival from somewhere around the world who will tap you on the shoulder after the gig and say, you all are terrific, you must come to my event in October in Germany or wherever it may be. So these people are here looking for fresh talent, which is a tremendous benefit for us. I'm sorry, was there another question? Yes.
Yeah, is there a possibility of this foundation, Jazz Fest, acting as a guarantee agency for?
I'm not going to say a guarantee agency, no, but I will show you something that we debuted yesterday. This is a new project that we have just launched called the Jazz and Heritage Talent Exchange, and it's really just a website, but it's a directory of independent music from throughout the state of Louisiana. And you can search it by genre, by artist, song title if you want, or if you're looking for somebody that's, in our case, somebody who is specifically on tour, you can see where that band is going to be throughout the world, and you can even search for it. So if you're looking for a band that's going to be in the northeastern United States in the summertime, this is an opportunity, and this is open. It's a free service, and it's open to musicians from throughout the state of Louisiana. And so it is not a guarantee agency, and it's not a booking agency. It's more like a referral service, and it is a way for independent artists to be corralled under the umbrella of the nonprofit Jazz and Heritage Foundation, which has a certain reputation in the world. And so this way, it's not going to necessarily be a guarantee that you will show, no, but if you get a reputation for not showing, I guarantee you won't get booked again. But what we show simply are the booking contact, and in the case of film and television projects that are interested in licensing music, who to contact for the sync rights, who to contact for the master use. And this is a brand new project, so it's only just been launched. There's maybe 120 artists on here now, and we're looking to add everybody in the state that we can possibly get our hands on. So all you have to do is contact us at talent@jazzandheritage.org, send us an MP3, send us a photo, send us the booking and licensing info, and we'll put it up. Very simple. Sir?
Yeah, one last thing. A lot of folks come to New Orleans to buy New Orleans talent. And a lot of things that I found through dealing with New Orleans artists and bringing them on the road is that some of the buyers underpay these groups. And some of them accept that to go on the road. So that creates a norm where promoters and buyers talk among themselves, and they might ask and say, well, how much you pay for this group? And they'll say, I paid this amount for that group. So that's how they approach them, to pay for them. And then the artists that are up here that deal with agencies and writers and certain kinds of money, they're not going to fluctuate any different. But you treat local New Orleans artists in a different way. So I'm just trying to make the buyers mindful of that, of being human to folks from New Orleans and paying them respect in terms of their music, because it's not gutter music, it's cultural music, and they're cultural ambassadors. So you need to pay them in that regard. That's what I found. And I just wanted to put that on the table, sir, just to let them know that.
Dan. in the way that Justine was saying that they do in Nancy, which is very unusual, I have to say.
We only do it with artists we really want, because there is a lot of French agency who works with American agency, and if we have the opportunity to have an American band on tour in October in our dates, so we'll do it. But it's a way organize a tour with a band we really want, and just in this way.
One time, I know of at least one band that they brought over that played a tour in the region, but they were able to stay in the same hotel every night. Nice part.
We did it once with Music Maker Foundation. We work with artists from Louisiana or Mississippi, and we did it for one show, and there was another one in Paris, and it's the only time we did it for one gig.
Yes. Since last year, for instance, our festival went to Rio. And whenever, outside our festival, because we always bring Louisiana, New Orleans artists, of course, sometimes we have to tour the artists. In order to have a full week, usually musicians are paid for a week. So you can have a better price, or it's almost the same price if you book 1 gig, 2 gigs, or 4 gigs. So we have our network for touring inside Brazil, depending on the kind of artist. And our festival, since last year, went to Rio in an open air and indoor concert with two acts in each. So it's possible. And besides, it's not only possible, it's necessary many times in order to offset the costs. You have the ticket, you pay the ticket, and all this visa and all this process. So we have to split these costs.
Mr. Chug?
Michael Chug, I'm the director of the East Coast Blues and Roots Festival in Byron Bay. About 5 years ago. We, in the last 5 years, we started the West Coast Blues and Roots Festival in Perth. We started the Coromandel Festival in Auckland, New Zealand. We started the Southern Roots Festival in Tasmania. And we have the Port Nepean Festival in Melbourne, which are all based around Easter. We also tied in with Singapore and Malaysia this year, so that acts travelling can do 5 or 6 festivals. And what we've been encouraging everybody to do is to buy around the world air tickets. You can buy around the world air ticket for $2,000. Buy an air ticket from Los Angeles to Sydney and back will cost you about $4,000. So we are encouraging people to buy around the world air tickets and try and look at the Mosaic Festival in Singapore and the Rainforest Festival in Malaysia, and copy the Young Festival in Johannesburg, and tie it all together. And it's been working very, very successfully. This year, we brought out Raoul Madon, the young blind blues singer from Europe. Last year, the French government helped us bring out Aiges, and we are working, as Cynthia knows, to get as many acts from Louisiana and all over the world to our festivals, and that's what we have to do. And we lost a bit of money this year because somebody moved east of the early 1930, and we lost the school holidays. But festivals go on, and I think it's been great to see you here today and be part of this. Thank you.
But it's one of the classic conundrums for artists from here or anywhere, frankly, who are independent artists. They don't have booking agencies. They don't necessarily have the database of which festivals are in a certain region, all scattered throughout the same month. And if you don't have access to that information or a representative that is out there pitching you on a daily basis, it's very difficult, as all the artists here can attest.
One other thing, we're happy to deal with managers, agents, or bands direct. There's no problem.
All right. Okay.
Since I am a harpist and a
Very clever.
It's a lot easier to say, well, our tickets to Sao Paulo is paid. And another solution is that we work with local musicians and we bring them here. We have some Garifunas from Honduras here with us now, and then they go home and book us somewhere there. So we don't have to pay for, 5, 6 tickets. We just pay for 2 tickets, and we have a band there, and then we bring them here, and everybody's happy. So we've been we played in 5 cities in Brazil for the last 4 years. By never.
All right, I think we have time for maybe 2 more questions.
An announcement to add a Scott's bundle new service. Long River Tower Records, which for 20 years was one of the world's top-selling jazz, blues, and Louisiana music stores. That space has been leased by Aiges Records, and will reopen in the month of May. So everyone with CDs, come on down. We plan on selling a boatload, just like Tower did.
All right.
With all of you sharing a lot of similar concerns, is there a worldwide organization of festival producers who could get together and, as a team, try to get the airlines to deal with you guys? You would have a lot more power if you had a convention and you all pulled your resources together. And then that would help us artists because you guys would be stronger and be able to work more.
Scott, why don't we do that in New Orleans?
Talking about it.
There is there's a conference called the Womex Festival that takes place every year in Berlin. And, there is the APPA convention in New York in January of festival producers. There's an international organization of festival producers. And then there's a more informal association of world music presenters where we do communicate with each other sometimes to just, find out who's booking who at what time of the year. But in general, good idea. And it's being discussed. By the way, Peter Dammann, he wasn't being rude. He's got a gig with Charmaine Neville out at the festival. Good guitar player.
Yes.
I mentioned to you the other day that there's Lubet Travel that likes to work with musicians. I think it's a New York-based agency. They like to help musicians book their tours. And then you also mentioned
Serenity Travel. They're a local talent agent or travel agency, and they work with many, many musicians, not just from here, but from all around the world, booking travel.
And then the Louisiana Division of the Arts, they have special money available for Louisiana musicians to do travel. And I know that in the past they advertised it to get people to apply for those grants.
Yeah, the LDOAs and the Cultural Economy Fund are also offering kind of artist entrepreneur grants. Like you can secure a $3,000, $25,000, $3,000 up to $5,000, maybe through the Cultural Economy Fund, where you can use it for anything that demonstrates, enhancing your career, whether it's international travel or, purchasing equipment for your business. So Division of the Arts, definitely, and they're available a couple times a year, springtime.
So thank you all for coming, and we'll see you at Jazz Fest. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, here comes...